and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use at 5. I am Tina Baxter, your host. Thanks for tuning in. Today is November the 6th, 2024. And yes, we've had a wild ride in the last 24 hours. Let's just address the elephant in the room and take a deep breath in and out as we exhale and get ready for what's coming next. So let's get into our affirmation for today. I see my fellow humans with compassion and understanding. We live in a world where it is safe to love each other. I see my fellow humans with compassion and understanding. We live in a world where it is safe and we love each other. That's our affirmation for today. Let's please remember to be kind to one another from the Louise Hay calendar. Let's go ahead and get into our news. And no, we are not talking about politics per se. Okay? So just to let you know, this isn't that type of show. All right, so we're going to get into our first story. It's from Healthcare Dive, and it says CVS appoints new Aetna head following mixed third quarter results. So CVS reported mixed third quarter results shadowed by heightened medical costs on Wednesday in the massive healthcare enterprise's first earnings report with new CEO David Joyner at the helm. The Woonsocket, Rhode Island-based company beat Wall Street expectations on revenue of $95.4 billion, that's billion with a B, up for more than 6% over the year. However, CVS's net income fell to $71 million, down from almost $2.3 billion the same time last year, as its Aetna insurance arm continued to struggle with higher spending. CVS appointed Steve Nelson, previously the CEO of value-based primary care company ChenMed, as president of Aetna. Nelson also ran United Healthcare, the largest private insurer in the U.S. from 2016 to 2019. For CVS, this year has been defined by an unsuccessful fight against elevated medical costs. The third quarter was no different. We have been more acutely impacted than others in the industry from rising medical costs in MA and Medicaid, Joyner said on a Wednesday morning call with investors, and that majorly miscalculated utilization trends and pricing Medicare Advantage plans for this year, causing hundreds of thousands of seniors to flock to its generous coverage and saddling the insurer with an unexpected steep price tag for their care. Aetna is also being hit with a dogged dislocation in Medicaid payment and member acuity, similar to insurer peers. The payer is having, quote, constructive discussions with states on increasing their rates, but currently payments are inadequate to cover the cost of Medicaid beneficiaries' care. Overall, Aetna reported an operating loss of $1.2 billion compared to a profit of $1.1 billion last year. So they are losing money. Okay, sorry, I thought I heard somebody shouting. Okay, so CVS again is going through some difficulties, as are most places in the healthcare industry. So let's go on into our next story, and we'll be certainly talk about that. But if you're interested and you have stock in CVS, this is something that you might want to take a look at. Okay, this is coming out of the state of Illinois. This was kind of a little bit shocking here in this story. But it says that Rochelle nursing home residents staff giving 2 days to vacate due to sudden closure. So this is from Rochelle, Illinois. Senior residents of the Rochelle Rehabilitation and Healthcare Center have been given 2 days to find a new facility after they were notified the nursing home would be closing. Lauren Watson worked as a nurse at the facility located at 900 North 3rd Street for the last 4 years. On Monday, staff and patients learned that the management company, Highlight Healthcare, would be shuttering the nursing home and rehabilitation center. They announced Monday that Wednesday at noon, we were going to be closed. All residents, all employees are to vacate the facility. It was chaotic. They were scattering. The residents were scared, emotional, and in pain. Mary, who asked to keep her last name private, is the sister of a resident. She said she and her son were blindsided by the news while visiting on Monday. I have enough experience with this to know that I really don't believe that this is legal. And so I said, I'm leaving now, but I find it absolutely horrible that you would do this to these people. I don't think any of you have a soul. My sister has been here 11 years, but there are some of these people who have been here for 20, 30 years, and you're just in a day and a half going to throw them out of the building? Peterson Healthcare, which owns the facility, turned management over to Highlight Healthcare after declaring bankruptcy in March. Highlight Healthcare took charge in August. Negotiations to extend the time patients and staff have to vacate the building are ongoing. It was very confusing for them and for their families who just got a last minute phone call or text or something saying, hey, so and so is being moved elsewhere, or where would you like to move them? It's scary for anybody to be just like, okay, well, guess what? You've been here for 11 years now. You're going somewhere else. So it's definitely heartbreaking, said former employee Adet Vasquez. Administrators for Rochelle Rehabilitation Healthcare declined to comment, and Highlight Healthcare did not respond to inquiries. So my heart goes out to them. That is very disruptive, but we're going to be starting to see more and more of this happening across the country. We'll just keep you notified. This is a story coming from across the pond in the UK. This is about the Lucy Ledbetter story. I would say that this talks about abuse and other things. So, trigger warning for anybody that's listening. This is coming from the BBC, and it says, Ledbetter nursing chiefs call police, plea ignored. Hospital executives ignored a nursing chief's pleas to call police after she was, quote, spooked by a baby's pattern of deteriorations when Lucy Letby was on duty, a public inquiry has heard. The Countess of Chester Hospital's former deputy director of nursing, Sian Williams, was asked by her bosses in 2016 to analyze staffing rotas following a series of unexpected neonatal unit deaths and collapses. Ms. Williams told the thorough inquiry examining how Letby was able to murder 7 babies and attempt to murder 7 others that the nurse had been 80% more likely to be on duty either during or before a baby collapsed. Rather than calling police, the inquiry had executives commission an external review and internal studies. The inquiry had consultants warned bosses at the end of June of 2016 that the patient's safety was at risk and raised the possibility that Letby could be deliberately harming babies. Ms. Williams says she presented her staffing analysis to the executive team in mid-July. She said that the results had been so stark that she sought out medical director Ian Harvey the next day for a one-to-one meeting. The nursing chief said she highlighted to him the repeated overnight collapses of one baby on 3 occasions when Letby was on duty. The baby's condition stabilized during the day when Letby was not present, Ms. Williams added. I have to say that spooked me, she told the inquiry sitting at Liverpool Town Hall. Ms. Williams told Sharam Shargi, representing some of the families of Letby's victims, that Mr. Harvey said he would check the information. Mr. Sharkey said, did he or any other members of the executive team seem surprised or indeed worried by what you told him about your findings? Ms. Williams replied, I don't recall him saying anything that would give me that impression. Ms. Williams also said that she told executives about a previous occasion many years ago when police were called in about the possible deliberate harm being caused on the adult ward at the hospital. She explained, I got a call from the previous chief executive saying, could I come down? He said somebody had brought this concern that somebody may be switching off pumps which delivered fluids to patients. I think it was a high dependency setting. We had a brief conversation, and we both believed we should inform the police and that they would make their decision as to what to do. So he rang the police. The police came in straight away. They didn't want you to do your own investigation or anything like that. With Letby, Ms. Williams said she urged bosses to adopt a similar approach. But the nursing chief said she was repeatedly told that, quote, the senior managers had taken advice that they must first conduct their own investigation. She told the inquiry that she believed the executive team were, quote, clear in their minds, the deaths were due to poor care, and that Letby was not deliberately harming babies. The inquiry saw notes from a meeting between executive managers and clinicians on July 11, 2016, which was exploring how to respond to the consultant's concerns about Letby. Then Chief Executive Tony Chambers was noted to have said, there is correlation with the nurse, but we know change in acuity and activity. He had a week ago only option to ring the police, but now more info. We can create harm to nurse, fragile, toxic, need to protect it. Consultant Ravi Jaram was noted to have said, should not be blinkered to the unspeakable. Fine balance, my objective compromise. Another consultant, John Gibbs, main worry is nurse, therefore, must be totally supervised cast iron assurance. Later that month, Letby was moved to clerical duties in the hospital's risk and patient safety department rather than continue to work as a neonatal unit. Cheshire police were called in by Mr. Chambers in May of 2017. So let me go back to this. This was done. They had these suspicions and concerns back in July of 2016. So I'm reacting with this with you. So I wanted to stop here and say, so the nurse supervisor or the equivalent said, hey, I have concerns about this nurse who's deliberately harming patients, babies. And their response is, let us investigate. We'll get back to you and let the nurse work. And then finally put her on clerical duties. And then almost a year later, they want to call in the police. And it says, Letby continued to work at the hospital until her first arrest in July of 2018. The 34-year-old from Hereford is serving a 15 whole life orders after she was convicted at Manchester Crown Court of murdering 7 infants and attempting to murder 7 others, with 2 attempts on one of her victims between June of 2015 and June of 2016. So I want to say the note was back in July. So after this the nurse went to them, told them, and they waited a year before the police got to be involved. And again, this is a repeated pattern that we're seeing where upper management is ignoring what nurses are saying, the nurses that are there on the floor, the nurses that are actually working the unit, ignoring the nurse and then allowing these things to continue. I'm going to say shame on you. So while we're talking about what's happening over across the pond, let's get to this next article from Nursing in Practice, and then we'll take a brief break. And it says, nurses with long COVID made to feel disposable, inquiry told. Nurses who contracted long COVID during the pandemic and subsequently left their jobs have been let down and made to feel disposable by NHS management, the UK COVID-19 inquiry has been told. Patricia Temple was a Band 5 staff nurse working on cardiac care unit during the pandemic when she believes she caught a severe case of COVID and subsequently developed long COVID. Giving evidence to the UK COVID-19 inquiry this week, Ms. Temple said more work was needed to better support nurses with long COVID to stay in the workforce. She believes managers were initially caught unaware by having nurses absent with long COVID. She said a more robust system is needed to support nurses at home when they develop the condition. The inquiry heard how Ms. Temple was herself admitted to the hospital in an ambulance after isolating at home with COVID-19 during 2020. It goes on to say, I was of the firm belief that we were told that you had to isolate at home for 10 days, that whatever you did, please do not go to the hospital because it would further confound the problems that we're having at the hospital. So I stayed at home for an exceptionally long time. After a visit from a respiratory physiotherapist and having consulted other physicians, Ms. Temple later learned that she had permanent lung damage and was unable to return to her previous nursing role due to her long COVID symptoms. She ultimately took ill health dismissal in September 2023 and no longer delivers, quote, bedside nursing, but supports nursing students with their academic work online. Ms. Temple shared her concern for other nurses who contracted long COVID, especially those at the start of their careers. There are a lot of nurses out there that are at the beginning of their careers and have had to take dismissal due to ill health, she told the inquiry. That makes me feel like they, the NHS management, consider nurses disposable, and I think that's where they let us down particularly. Ms. Temple urged lessons to be learned from the pandemic, warning more could be done to support nurses with long COVID to remain in the profession. I have a lot of nurses that I know who are trying very, very hard to stay in the workplace and are unable to do so, and that's something that I think should be seriously looked at and learned from so that they are a valuable resource. They are not disposable. Having COVID and long COVID, you can't be clapped for 1 minute and declared disposable the next. The Department of Health and Social Care has this week announced plans to create a world first early warning system to monitor for the threat of future pandemics. The system will be developed through a new partnership between the government, Genomics England, UK Biobank, NHS England, and Oxford Nanopore, a UK headquartered life science company. So, yeah, that's another thing. Nurses oftentimes we are felt as if we're disposable. They have you come in to work it as much as you can. Oh, by the way, you're no longer able to work. That's all right. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. We'll just say, hey, we'll have you just do it again and again. Can't come in? Oh, well, we'll just replace you. So again, I want to say I support the nurses over there in the UK, and I want something similar for us nurses here in the US. And that's one of the reasons why um, I support nurses in entrepreneurship, because sometimes you can't go back to the bedside, but you're still a nurse and you still have something that you can do and very valuable skills. So let's go ahead and take a break before we head to our next story. Entrepreneurship, gaining confidence, skills, and freedom to live your life on your own terms. I specialize in working with nurses and other health professionals who want to reduce burnout, pessimism, and compassion fatigue, so you can become a successful entrepreneur to reclaim the love you have for your profession and to create a fulfilling and prosperous life. Join the Nurse Shark Academy at thenurssharkacademy.biz and come feel the sun, providing a clear path for business success. All right, let's move into our next story. And this is another, we're going back to the U.S. here, but this is another long-term care case. And I just found this one quite interesting. So again, I'm reacting to a lot of this with you on real time. But this is from McKnight's Long-Term Care News. And it says, nursing home pays $80K to settle workers' sleep disorder discrimination claims. A Texas skilled nursing facility is out of $80,000 after it was accused of having violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, which prohibits disability discrimination and retaliation against an employee with a disability. Vibrant Life of Katie failed to reasonably accommodate an employee with a sleep disorder, according to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Disability Discrimination and Retaliation lawsuit. The employee was scheduled to work 3 12-hour shifts each week, which was quickly altered by the addition of a fourth shift every other week. After the employee noted the original job posting featured a 3-day work week in her accommodation request, she was demoted and terminated, an EEOC press release said. On top of the $80,000 payment, the Katy, Texas facility must amend its procedures to ensure it accommodates individuals with disabilities in the future, as outlined in a 3-year consent decree entered by the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas, Houston Division. The facility also must provide yearly ADA employee training and notify all of its U.S. employees of the lawsuit. I think that's great, because I think there's a lot of discrimination that's done in the way of disabilities and making reasonable accommodations. And so I do really support that. I think that's important. And I don't know why there isn't annual training across the board required for everyone on ADA training. I think that to be a minimum. Everybody should have to take some sort of training, just so you'll know how to work with individuals who have disabilities, and especially in management, should be required by those in management, because you don't want to run afoul of the law and what you should be doing. And I think a lot of managers out there are just put into positions and they're not properly trained. They don't have the expertise. They're just, good workers, so let's promote them. And it may not necessarily be management material. But let's go on to the rest of the story. It says this required correspondence aligns with what workers want. 96% of nursing home and healthcare workers said in a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation poll that they want more transparent hiring practices. An attorney in the case, however, says that such rulings show that providers can come off as unconcerned about employee needs. Isn't that the truth? This settlement is an important reminder to employers of their obligation to comply with the ADA and ensure that employees who need a reasonable accommodation will receive the protections and opportunities available to them under federal law. In its fiscal year that ended in September 30th, the EEOC has filed 110 lawsuits, with 48 cases falling under the ADA. 2 of the cases came out of Washington State, where two nursing home chains were slapped with penalties for denying admission to patients because of substance use disorders. So we'll see what happens. We'll continue to follow that. But if you want to learn more, you can also, I'm headed over to McKnight's Long-Term Care News as well. Here is a story that's coming out of Health Services Group, McKnight's Long-Term Care, as well. I love this story because it was giving you information that I think people with loved ones who are going to enter long-term care may need to have this information to help them. So it says a recent study that people with dementia are more apt to be admitted to nursing homes with lower star ratings. Researchers looked at admission to nursing homes with higher staffing ratings after hospitalization and how individuals fared in the nursing homes based on having or not having dementia. The report was published on October the 29th in Alzheimer's and Dementia. The team evaluated traditional Medicare beneficiaries discharged from nursing homes between 2011 and 2017, along with the relationship between facility staffing star ratings, short-term readmissions, and mortality. The number of vacant beds in nursing homes with high ratings were also considered. Data was derived from 5.6 million people who were discharged to nursing homes. 23.1% of the people had dementia. Among the people with dementia, 52% were admitted to high-rated nursing homes that had 4 or 5-star ratings, compared to 53% of patients without dementia. So there's like a 1% difference. Of those with dementia, 23% were discharged to low-rated nursing homes that had 1 or 2 stars, compared to 18% of patients without dementia. The findings show the need to enhance direct care staffing in nursing homes and address access disparities, especially in people with dementia who need high-quality care. Those with dementia were more likely than those without to have been admitted to the emergency department during the hospital stay. People with dementia largely were admitted to larger nursing homes, facilities that were more likely to be for-profit, nursing homes that were less likely to be hospital-based, and facilities with lower star ratings. The adjusted short-term mortality and readmission rates were lower among those discharged to nursing homes with higher staffing ratings, whether or not the person had dementia. The effects were larger in those with the disease. Our findings speak not only to the need for more staffing broadly, but also to how staffing is allocated across patient populations. The fact that patients with dementia are less likely to receive nursing home care in facilities with better staffing, but may essentially benefit from it, implies inefficiency in how quality is currently allocated, the authors wrote. So if you want to read more about that, head on over to McKnight's Long-Term Care News, and you can get the reference then to that article as well. All right, before we get to some more enlightening news, this is a sad case, but I'm bringing this up because, again, we're talking about issues and long-term care, and these are things that happen and unfortunately happen all too frequently. There's been multiple reports throughout the years, and we've certainly covered a lot of them, but I want to share this with you. This is from the Los Angeles Times, and it says Thousand Oaks nursing home resident arrested on suspicion of unaliving his roommate. A resident of Thousand Oaks Nursing Home has been arrested on suspicion of unaliving his roommate, the Ventura County Sheriff's Office said. Deputies responded at 4:40 a.m. Friday to a call from the Silverado Memory Care Facility at Warwick Avenue about a resident who was agitated and had broken a window. The deputies found the resident, Thomas Buckley, 58, in a common area of the facility and detained him. The nursing home staff then checked on his roommate, Michael Patterson, 72. The workers found that Patterson had several severe injuries, which appeared to be caused by an assault. Paramedics were called to the scene, and Patterson was pronounced unalived a short term later. Investigators said that before deputies arrived, Buckley had assaulted one of the facility's workers, causing minor injuries. So here we go. There is a history then of violent behavior with this individual. Patterson's death is being investigated as a homicide. The Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office will conduct an autopsy to determine the official cause and manner of death. Buckley was booked on suspicion of murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and vandalism. He remains in custody, and his bail was set at $2 million. His arraignment hearing is scheduled for Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. in Ventura County Superior Court. Silverado issued a statement about the incident on Sunday. Our thoughts are with the families and those impacted by this tragedy, said Jeff Frum, a spokesperson for Silverado. The safety and well-being of our residents and staff is our top priority, and we're cooperating fully with law enforcement in their investigation. So again, not having any background information, but I'm just looking at this. So this gentleman who's 58 is in a room with a gentleman who's 72. It makes you wonder what he was there for. I mean, again, everybody's presumed innocent until proven guilty, but it just goes to show that we have to do a much better job of screening individuals and providing safety precautions. After your staff was assaulted, what was done in this case to prevent any further violence by this individual? What were the precipitants to the violence with this person? There's a whole lot of questions. And the fact that he's now in the hospital, in jail, he's not in the hospital or anything like that. He's in jail. Makes me wonder, why was he in a nursing home at 58 years old? So there's a lot of questions here. I can't make any judgments on it, but I have a lot of questions. And as things develop and I hear more, I'll certainly give you more information. All right. I wanted to share this and celebrate this nursing student because I think it's cool to talk about nurses that are doing things outside of, nursing and just living life. And so this is a nurse making a difference, but in a different way. And it says, nursing student makes it to the finish line of the New York City Marathon. This is from one of the schools, the New York. So congratulations to York College nursing student. This is from their press release. Student Natalia Scarin de Oliveira Vaz completed the 2024 New York City Marathon this past weekend. And you're saying, well, why is this newsworthy? It's because I think anytime nurses or a new nurse is doing something great, we should be celebrated. So why not celebrate her? So congratulations to her. She's got a wonderful picture here. But it says that she participated in the race and was one of the more than 55,000 participants who completed it this year. The future nurse was also delighted to be cheered on by familiar York faces along the path. Dr. Earl Simmons, Executive Director of the Government Relations and Strategic Initiatives, was there at mile 14 of the 26.2 mile marathon, and Professor Margaret Hickey from the nursing department, with whom she paused for a photo as she passed through Brooklyn. I had completed the New York City 2024 marathon. The graduating senior excited reported back to York College the following morning. It was a great experience of resilience and determination, much like passing and getting out of nursing school. So I want to say congratulations to her for completing that milestone. I think that's great that you can do some other things in nursing as well. All right, so that ends our news for today. Let's get into some announcements really quick. We are having the So You Want to Start Your Nurse Own Business on this coming Saturday. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up for that, head on over to the NurseSharkAcademy.biz, sign up for that event. There's still time to get a ticket. It looks like we're going to have a pretty good group come out. So I'm excited about that. But we're going to talk about innovative ways that you can do in becoming a nurse, business owner. And then we're going to talk about that startup process and the how. A lot of people are asking me the how. We're going to talk about the how this coming Saturday. So join us for that. All right. That's all that I have for now. And I will be happy to see you next week.